In 1977, Seattle Slew electrified the sport as he defined Triple Crown perfection.
He was the most wonderful horse on the racetrack. He had a lot of power, he had courage, he had heart, and he had tremendous speed.
During the 1970s, Karen Taylor and her husband Mickey formed a racing partnership with Dr. Jim Hill and his wife Sally. This foursome would come to be known as the Slew Crew.
Jim was picking out horses, and he looked at about 2,000 yearlings, and he'd vetted Bold Reasoning 3 times before, but when he walked out of the stall, Jim said, "If this isn't a racehorse, my name isn't Jim Hill."
The Hills and Taylors came away with the steal as Seattle Slew sold for the low price of $17,500. As a 2-year-old, Slew won all 3 of his races, including a whopping 10-length romp in the Champagne Stakes at Belmont Park. This bargain special had emerged as a very special racehorse. He began his 3-year-old season by setting a track record at Hialeah in a 7-furlong allowance race. Next, the colt captured the Flamingo and later added a victory in the Wood Memorial. It was on to Louisville for the 103rd edition of the Kentucky Derby. And on that first Saturday in May, Slew would attempt to become only the 2nd undefeated Derby winner in history. The colt was heavily favored, and one look at his past performances chart explains why he was the betting choice. In all 6 of his races, Slew had led at every call. Yet before the 1.25-mile test and during its early stages, the Slew Crew had their share of worries.
He was so hot in the paddock. He wasn't nervous, but he was just dripping, and because we knew that horses really can't be dripping that much and losing that much fluid. And then we had a late start, and we thought, oh no, you can't have a late start in the Derby. And
so despite washing out before the race and despite getting away to a slow start, Seattle Slew charged into 2nd place after the first quarter and led after a mile.
Seattle Slew moving away, now opens 2.5. Run Dusty Run driving up on the outside into 2nd. Steve's friend, here's Sanhedrin now closing also along the inside. Coming to the wire, Seattle Slew opens it to 4 lengths.
The blanket of roses belonged to winning jockey Sean Krugay and to the determined Seattle Slew, who ran his perfect mark to 7-0. It was then on to Baltimore at Pimlico for the 2nd jewel of the Triple Crown, the Preakness, at 1 mile 3/16. Breaking from post 8, Slew was 2nd shortly after the start. Krugay had the colt perfectly positioned down the backstretch, and on the turn, Seattle Slew turned on the speed.
They come to the top of the stretch with 1/4 mile to go. It's Seattle Slew in front. Cormoran is 2nd. Iron Constitution on the outside coming on. They come to the 8th pole. It's Seattle Slew. Iron Constitution rallying on the outside along with J.O. Tobin. A 1/16 of a mile to run. It's Seattle Slew. Iron Constitution.
Posting a 1.5-length triumph, Seattle Slew missed the track record by only 2/5 of a second. He was now only 1.5 miles away from becoming racing's first and only undefeated Triple Crown champion. It was on to New York for the Belmont Stakes.
by the time he got to the Belmont, at least he was home. I mean, that was kind of his home place. So of all the races, I think that they were all nervous, and we kind of took each one of his races race by race. But I think the Belmont was probably the one that we were probably the most relaxed about. But then it had rained, and he'd never been on a muddy track before, and a sloppy track, and so we were nervous about that. But he's always made us very proud.
In the grueling Belmont, Krugay and Seattle Slew led at every call.
In the stretch, here he comes, and he's opening it up again. It's Seattle Slew, and he's drawing clear of the field. Seattle Slew has 4 lengths on Run Dusty Run. It's Run Dusty Run in second and Sanhedrin third. They're nearing the finish line. It's still Seattle Slew, and he's opened it out to 4.5. Then Run Dusty Run and Sanhedrin.
Those New York fans had witnessed racing history. Seattle Slew had run his career mark to 9 wins, no defeats. The colt had achieved one of the greatest records in all the sporting world. Seattle Slew wound up winning 14 of 17 races. And in 1978, Slew defeated another Triple Crown winner, affirmed in the Marlboro Cup. Slew's current home is Three Chimneys Farm in central Kentucky, where he ranks as one of the world's most important sires. Among his offspring, the multiple champion Slew of Gold and the Kentucky Derby and Belmont winner Swale. 14 years after his run to glory, Seattle Slew is still popular and attracts many visitors to the farm.
He sold for $17,000, but it's the kind of hopes and dreams our business is made of, and I think it was a wonderful story for racing, and I think it keeps all of us going.